Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing.
Good morning, and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for being here with us. Happy Thursday. I'm doing so well this week in remembering what day it is. After coming from vacation, you forget at times, like, what day is it? Is it Monday? Every day feels the same, but we're here. Happy Thursday to each and every one of you joining us today, whether you're here live or indeed you're joining us later on for the recordings. Thank you for making the time. And of course, please leave us a message. Let us know you were here so we can say hi to you and yours. And of course, I hope that you join us for many, many more story times, not just this one, but many others as well. And you can always find Storytime at your convenience at storytimewithmrlimata.com. Thank you so much for being here. Excited for our book today, excited for our guest as well. And we've been talking about this, and I hope that you are ready. We do have Guinn de Oliveira, and we'll be talking about that name as well. Roots of that for sure, so we can learn a little bit more about Guinn. But Guinn is here with a brand new or debut graphic novel, Reggie, Kid Penguin. I hope you're ready for this one. Has made me laugh for many days now. I hope that you get to enjoy it too, and maybe relate to some of what's happening in the story. So thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime, and very soon we'll be introducing Guinn to you all. So let us see this morning who is with us, ready to enjoy a wonderful story. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. Good morning to you, Soraya, right here in Oakland. I'm glad you could catch us today. I know the 6 o'clock time doesn't quite work for you to catch us live, but I'm glad that today we're here at 7 and you're able to be here with us. Good morning to you. And of course, good morning to you, Sharon Lungo, as well. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that your school year is off to a great start. Thank you so much for joining in. And yes, I know it's hot out there, hot out here in Oakland. So I hope that please you remember to carry your water bottle. Be in the shade as much as possible where you can, and of course to carry a hat if you have it. Just take care of yourself. Sunblock too, so don't forget all those good things. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. I'm glad that we're here together, and good morning to you all the way out on the East Coast. Thank you so much for joining in out in Harvard, Massachusetts, Marietta and Henry. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime. Good morning to you. And you say, we love Reggie. Well, I hope that everybody will be saying that after this show. So thank you so much for being here with us on Storytime. And I want to hear, what is it that you love about Reggie? But here at Storytime, we love Reggie, but we also love Guinn de Oliveira. So join me in welcoming her to Storytime this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Limata.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me here. I'm so happy to see my friend Marietta and Henry and some other guests. How exciting.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting. I'm glad you could make the time. Are you a morning person or not?
I've been a teacher for a long time, so it's forced me to be a morning person, to get up and out the door and in the classroom door on time.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I know that you'll be reading with us today. You'll be sharing a few things, but your name, De Oliveira. Where is that? Or what are the roots of that? Could you share it a little bit
That's
more about
actually my married last name. So
it?
it's my husband's family name, and he's part Portuguese. His dad is immigrated from Portugal. So it's
Okay.
a Portuguese last name. And I think the meaning has to do with olives and making olive oil.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I was curious about that and wondered if there were either Brazilian roots or something going. Yeah. So
Yeah,
maybe.
not Brazilian, but just Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I was just curious about that. And I'm sure too everybody out there too has questions and have things that they're curious about and would love to learn
Yeah.
more about. So please prepare those questions. Jen is here to answer them. But how has your life changed since Reggie? And I know that you've been working on Reggie, you know, before the book, before the graphic novel. So yeah, how has your life changed after the novel? Or even just after?
Well, it's just been such a process. I actually, you're right. I started working in 2020 on Reggie while I was teaching on Zoom. We were talking a little bit about that. So that was an interesting year in itself. But since Reggie's been out, like it's just been really great seeing people's reactions to Reggie. So,
Yeah.
seeing him in libraries has been really exciting. I've gotten some letters from families who read Reggie at bedtime together and pictures
Yeah.
from kids. So that's been really sweet.
I've seen some
Because
of those when you've shared. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like once the book is out in the world, it belongs to everybody, and so it's nice to share that with other people.
Yeah. And do you get like when do you still get surprised when you see it, or what places have surprised you? You mentioned a few places, but what others have surprised you when you find Reggie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting for my local library to get it. They were a little delayed, but I have it on hold. But I've been kind of doing this thing where I've been like collecting Reggies. So I go to the library system and I collect him from all over California libraries.
Oh,
And I send a
yeah.
little note back with it. So it's been exciting.
Yeah.
Copies of Reggie from like Sacramento and Sunnyvale and San Francisco libraries. So that's just
Yeah.
really fun. It's like he's a
Yeah.
little bit of a world traveler.
Yeah, no, and also, like you're saying, I hope that as we travel even the world, to get to find Reggie, different places.
That would be so exciting.
Yeah, I just recently this summer too, traveling, like went to a few bookstores as you do when you're on vacation, as you should all do. Went to a bookstore, went to a few bookstores, and one of them had Mark Barnett, Christian Robinson, and I think Sean Harris as well. And it was just so interesting because we had just done an event at Fairyland with them, and I was like, oh, they're books, and I was so excited seeing them out there. Yeah, but
They're awesome.
I'll be looking out for Reggie as well. I'll be
Thank
looking out
you.
for Reggie.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where he pops up.
Right, and just two, we have out in Nakitosh, Louisiana. Thank you so much for joining in, Auntie Ann, Auntie Pam, Chad. Good to see you here. And you saying it is hot and humid out there. Only Chad this year. Braylon is at real school. Oh, moving on up, Braylon. Thank you so much for joining in, and we're glad you're here in Road and Magnet. Well, all the best out there, Braylon. Continue shining. Thank you so much. And we hope that you still join in Storytime, though. Remember, you can catch us for the recordings later on. Thank you for being here. Yes, only one kinfolk at home school now. We're happy to be here. Well, I'm happy you're here. Hugs to you out there in Nakitosh, Louisiana. I know it's hot, but we're still sending you hugs. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Good to see you. And that one is for you. Henry says, loves that Reggie.
Oh.
Like him. Oh my goodness. I love that. Kathy Keith, good morning to you. Is Ari with you today? Thank you so much for joining in. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Thank you so much for joining us on Storytime. Appreciate you. Good morning, Sarah and Nathan, coming in late because of a dentist appointment. Well, we're glad you're here. You're on Zambian time, so you're right where you need to be, right on time for me. Thank you so much for joining in today. I appreciate you. And of course, Ari as well in Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm glad you're here with us on Storytime. Sharon Lungo and Soraya, thank you as well for being here. Well, we have our guest, Jen. Please prepare those questions and we'll be back after the reading. And so, Jen, take it away.
Okay. Well, this is my first book, Reggie Kid Penguin, and it's a graphic novel for kids. It is kind of a chapter book. I'll just turn really quick to the table of contents. It's a collection of short stories, all starring Reggie, and even one is written and drawn by Reggie. So today I'm going to share the first story from the book called The Portrait. And this is Reggie Kid Penguin by me, Jen de Oliveira. And in the title page, it says Reggie Kid Penguin, and Reggie says, "That's me," by Jen de Oliveira. Here are some of the stories in the book. Reggie says, "My favorite story is all of them." And our first story in the book is The Portrait. I'm going to adjust myself to make sure everybody can see here. Okay. The Portrait. "Cheese, Mama, I'm ready. Reggie, you are not getting your picture taken like that." Do you think he looks ready for picture day? "You'll have to change your clothes. This year, I finally want a nice picture, but I hate getting my picture taken. The lights are way too bright. My eyes. The picture takers yell at me. Sit up straight. Smile. Look up over here. A real smile. They twist my body in weird ways. Tilt your head a bit more. Point your feet this way. Flippers together. And my pictures always turn out bad. Say cheese. Achoo. Click." "Reggie, don't complain. Now take this sweater to your room and get dressed. But that one has an itchy tag. Tap, tap, tap. Grumble, grumble. Shut." Maybe some of you have had itchy tags before. So here's Reggie staring at the tag. 100% wool hand wash. Hiss, snip. Aha, much better. Huh? And you can see his little feather is bent on the top of his head. He grabs a pair of scissors. Snip. Yikes! I can fix this. Snip, snip, snip. Oh no! Scoop, scoop. Pat, pat, pat. Reggie has a bottle of glue now. Squeeze, splort. Grab, wipe. Uh-oh, it's stuck. Pull, slip, thud, splat. Bump, clunk, spill. Reginald, you had better be wearing that sweater. I am. Let's go, mister. Creak. So, which hat should I wear? Later. I think it turned out pretty good. What do you think, Mama? Well, it actually may be your best portrait yet. Yeah, at least my eyes aren't closed. And that's the end of our first story. If you take a look, you'll see all of Reggie's past pictures. And believe it or not, this one is actually his best of the pictures. And I actually like that picture so much that I printed it out and it's sitting on my desk at home while I work.
Aww. Well, thank you so much for the reading and just that story. What comes to mind is do you have any of is this based on real life, or do you have any experiences with portraits?
Yes, it's very much based on real life. So as I mentioned, I was a first and second grade teacher for many, many years. And I never, even as a kid, really felt comfortable getting my picture taken like Reggie.
Yeah.
And then when you grow up and become a teacher, you get your picture taken every fall at back to school. So picture day just kept happening every year of my life. And it was not a very fun time for me.
And I remember too having students where they would come in because you'd be on a schedule of when you be doing when your class needs to go for picture day, right?
Yes.
And you would have these kids that have come in, like whether they're in their
All dressed
tie or whatever it is, dressed up, and then they have maybe we're after recess. So it's like,
Yes. And actually, can I share
yeah.
the comic strip? Should I share my screen to share that, Mr.
Oh
Lamar?
yes, absolutely. And then too, like
Okay.
before we go to that too, Pamela Courtney is saying the best use of
Oh,
onomatopoeia
thank you.
ever.
That's the fun thing about comics is you can definitely use a lot of onomatopoeia. I love that.
Yeah.
Let me try to share because you mentioned about some unfortunate scheduling with picture day. And so this is a comic. Before Reggie was a book, I made comic strips. And so this is what the portrait story is made out of, but I'll just read it really quick. It says, I hate picture day. Why? Because I said so. I hate fancy clothes. Reggie, focus. But my tag itches. I hate the mean old picture takers. Tilt your head, chin up, shoulders down, a real smile. And I hate how mama never buys them. Why don't they take your pictures before recess? And so, yeah, you covered it in juice and snacks. So, yeah, definitely can relate to, especially with the younger kids. We really always cross our fingers that picture day is before recess time.
Yeah. No, that is so funny. That is so funny. And how I mean, this is clearly too, like you mentioning the influences from life and your teaching and stuff. How much has teaching affected or influenced your writing?
A lot, actually. And actually, it's kind of what helped me want to make books for kids because when I always have drawn ever since I was little, and I grew up wanting to be a Disney artist. And then I went to school to study animation and illustration. And then I eventually ended up in the classroom where I could be creative and work with kids. And then I kind of fell back in love with reading aloud books and sharing books with kids. And so that really helped me want to become a children's book creator. And then, of course, just having that joy sharing books with kids every day is just such a fun thing.
Yeah, no, it's and like, because I don't know if you ever get this, but there's many times I've told stories, like just teaching stories or classroom stories, and friends will be like, "You should write a book about that." And it's so interesting to see your influences come out in the children's book versus like usually when people have mentioned that, I've thought of it as in being like, oh, like this book that talks about these experiences in the classroom, but you just have those kind of weaved into your storytelling is so cool, I think.
Yeah, Reggie is definitely about a lot of little small moments of what it's like being a kid. So just being around kids for so many years and observing them definitely influenced that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, for sure. And I have a question from Pamela for you as well.
Can you share your story on how many revisions of your art and your writing? Oh, a bedraggled homeschooling auntie. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it really is so much a process of revision, but also collaboration. So, geez, I honestly can't even count how many revisions that I've done on Reggie. It started a long, long time ago with his cousin Poppy, who's in the story. And it was a totally different story. And then Reggie came about, and then this story came about. So it's literally been years of rewriting and revising. And then with the art, I always start really small in a sketchbook and then kind of make it bigger. And I draw on my computer using Photoshop. So I try with the art because it's so labor intensive. I try to get it right as early on as possible, so I'm not having to redo a whole bunch of drawings. So that's been really nice working with an editor early on, is saying, let's try to make sure the story is working visually as soon as we can so that I don't have to go back and redraw, because that's really labor intensive. But yeah, it does take a lot of revisions, but I think it's good to remind yourself that when these old projects or these old versions don't work, it's not a failure. It's actually gotten you closer to where you need to go.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really cool way of thinking about it. But you mentioned something there. You say, I try as much as possible to get it right the first time. So wondering, with that in mind, when you're doing work where you're the author illustrator, I feel like that might be an easier thing to do because you have your vision of what you want it to look like. But how has it been? Have you worked with other people, other people's vision, and how is that different? And
Yeah,
or how does that
I
feel?
have.
What would be getting it right in that case?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I feel like there maybe that's part of like a little bit of trepidation to work on someone else's because you worry, okay, what if this doesn't quite match what they hoped? So right now I've just been illustrating my own projects because, like you said, I can kind of see them.
Yeah.
And I haven't had the opportunity to work on someone else's writing, but that's definitely a big responsibility. But on the other hand, I know friends who are authors and they've said like that moment they see the artwork that the illustrator provided, like they just cry tears of joy because they could never have imagined it looking that beautiful, or
Yeah.
just someone has a new perspective on it. So it's definitely
Yeah.
a really interesting collaboration.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just for Auntie Pam as well, I have some illustrations to share with you, Auntie Pam. Be sure to send me a message, nudge me so I can send them to
Oh,
you. But talking about moments like that when certain words come to life and you're like, oh my goodness, like this is, and it was, like just see how differently or similarly that the illustrator thought, and it's always just so fun to see that. And there's another question too coming in from Auntie Pam and Braylon and Chad, and they say, did Reggie always look like that? Was there an earlier sketch?
Oh, that's a great question. He always
Mm.
looked pretty similar to that because he was based off of, I'll show his cousin, who was initially, she came around before him. And so now he actually stole the show. The book is about him, and his cousin just has a little
Let,
part. But
let me
so, yeah,
yeah.
that's Poppy. Um, and so she's kind of babysitting him in this story. And so Reggie's always kind of looked similar to that. But then in the earlier strips, is it okay if I share my screen again?
Yeah, please,
Uh,
absolutely.
in the earlier strips, you can see a little bit of differences. Let me try to get that. That's a great question. So you can see this was, I think 2018 is when I started the comic strips of Reggie. So you can tell a little bit of differences, but the main one was his hair on his
Hmm.
head. It was more of kind of like a starfish shape. And
Oh,
the reason that changed, I'll go back to showing the book. The reason that changed to 3 little sticking up feathers on his head is it was just easier to draw. So the more I was drawing those comics and drawing that little starfish, it became like very labor intensive. And then I also found like the 3 little feathers are kind of fun. Like if he's running, they move and flop. So that was
mm,
kind of the biggest difference with Reggie.
yeah.
But yeah, he
Oh,
always had the same little overalls and the same little striped shirt.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's an interesting one too. So how far in did you change the hair, and how difficult was it to go back and change the other
Well,
images?
luckily he already had changed before the book started. Yeah. So because I had been doing the comic strips for a few years, by
Yeah,
the time the book started in 2020, I had
yeah,
already done a couple years of comic strips. And so by then I had practiced drawing Reggie a lot and
yeah.
simplified him a little bit. So his hair luckily already changed because that's hard. I've had friends who make a graphic novel, which could be 100 or 200 pages. Reggie's an 80-page book. But one of my friends is making a graphic novel about a road trip, and he drew the entire book. And he said afterwards, they said, "Oh, well, the seatbelt's not quite right," and so he had to go back and redraw the seatbelt over and over. I thought,
Oh my
so
goodness.
luckily, I did not have any horror stories like that with Reggie.
Yeah. Oh, that is so funny. Yeah. Oh. And just thinking too, and you mentioned well, I think let me take first Henry. I think Henry and Marietta were peeking at my notes here. The question is if Reggie wasn't a penguin, what animal would he be?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I honestly can't imagine Reggie as anything else. I guess my other favorite animals to draw in Reggie might be Mr. Oso, the bear. So just because I like drawing bears, maybe he'd be like a little bear cub. I don't know. But yeah, that's a great question. There's a whole cast of animals in Reggie's world. But I just can't imagine him being anything other than a penguin.
Yeah. And how did you land on on a penguin initially?
Yeah, that just came about from Poppy, his cousin. There was a story that I
Mhm.
originally wrote about a penguin and her reindeer friend. So it just evolved over time. And because Reggie was her cousin, he just became a penguin also.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's, yeah, interesting. And one of the things that you mentioned, you know, there's other book you mentioned other stories in this book, and I, you know, like there's so many influences that I see. Again, even in the second story, with Mr. Also being so present, I feel
Mhm.
like there's so many interesting things that I see that would happen on the playground and so on. And just recently too on Instagram, I saw this one video where this kid had worms in her pocket. And the parent was like, "Can you take that worm out?" And so it takes the worm out and it's like, "Is that the end of it?" It's like, "No." And then takes out, and then in the end, it's a whole bunch of them. It's just like they went to the playground and collected them. But another thing that I laugh too, because I'd always tell my students is like, the number, if I got $1 for the number of times you call my name, I would retire right now. But I was looking at Mr. Also and being called. I feel like there's so much, even though he's just in this like this the second one, just he's not in it as much, but the number of times that he's called his
They
name
call
is
him
so
by
was just
name. Yeah.
making me laugh and relate. What are some of those what are your experiences with some of those things that are coming out in that story?
In the roly poly story,
Yeah, and the roly poly story.
that one was absolutely inspired by the kids that I work with on the playground. I'll just go to the title page. So yeah, this
Yeah.
roly polies is like I think the third story in the book, and
That
so
story,
Reggie,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's Mr. Oso in the background, which would be me, super excited. Playground, which was always, I'm sure the grown-ups out there can relate. It's like, I don't know if there's a more stressful thing than watching children run around on playgrounds. You're just hoping nothing happens, nobody
Right.
bumps their head or falls down. So yeah, Reggie and his friends are making a village for the roly-polies. And unfortunately, the roly-polies kind of keep leaving the village, which is frustrating for the kids because they really, all they want is just to make a nice little town of
Yeah.
this recycled material for the roly-polies. So yeah, as a teacher, like you said, with the worms and everything else, there's something about little bugs that kids just love and they just can't resist picking them up. And
Yeah.
even if
Yes.
you say like, just let's just watch them with our eyes, like they still
Right.
just
Right.
have to
Yeah.
pick them.
Yeah, and I love too that you start with you do put a message in there of taking care of the bugs and being careful with them and they're delicate and all that. I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's kind of about learning, learning to adapt to nature rather than forcing the bugs to come to you, learning to kind of work with the bugs in nature and
Yeah.
sort of, yeah, the kids sort of learn like not to force the bugs out of their habitat, but to try to adapt to them.
Well, like this brings me to another issue, like a larger issue in society, recently and in the news and every time. I mean, like, and unfortunately being in the Bay too, and you say you're in San Francisco or just around, even right here in Oakland, there's so many people who are unhoused and so on. And I feel like there's a lot of times I don't know how much consultation goes into those communities and say, how can we help or what could work? And it just seems like most of the times there's this
Mhm.
um top down mandates or whatever that come in and like, oh, we're going to do this and this is what's best for you. Basically, we know best for you. And so just wondered too, as you were talking about that and I was reading it, I'm sure that like that was not what you probably intended, but it was what came up for me because it was something that has been sitting with me for a while. But it took me to that and just wondered to like teaching this lesson that you're teaching of how important it is to ask the stakeholders to make sure that we include the people
Mhm.
when making decisions and learning from that to being able, like when Mr. Also comes in, for example, and gives advice to be able to take that advice and move. So yeah, like you change course. So just wondered about that too, like those, how many of those lessons are intentional as you were creating the book.
Yeah, I love that you can connect that to something from your life. And I think as an author, that's the thing that I hope the most is that whoever is reading it can connect and kind of insert what is meaningful to them. Definitely with a lot of the stories, like I showed the little comic strips, some of them started initially as these little small, funny moments. And then the goal was to stretch them out into longer stories, but like you said, to have a little bit of a meaning and a message, and
Yeah.
also to kind of show how kids are so capable of thinking and solving through problems and being empathetic. Because Reggie, I mean, the first thing you see is this wild little guy running across the page. And, you know, we read the story about him cutting his hair and it just spirals out of control. But
Yeah.
I appreciate that you found those moments too, where there's like kind of
I
sweet
did.
moments. And I wanted to really show like the whole child and how kids
Mhm.
can be considerate and thoughtful. And really that's what the roly-poly story kind of came down to, is
Yeah.
it wasn't so much the kids wanting to take control of the roly-polies, but they just really wanted to do something so nice for them and help them. And they didn't quite realize that the
Right.
that was helping maybe wasn't quite the right way, or the thing that the roly-polies needed.
Good. Yeah, because I kept saying, "Oh, but what about the swing?" So yeah, that's so interesting. But you know, you mentioned Disneyland, and you know, I was reading too. You mentioned like your first drawing was Mickey Mouse. So just wondering, like, has that um kept influencing you, and like what inspiration do you get from that, or what is what is that relationship, what does that relationship look like now?
Yeah, well, here's that first ever picture of Mickey Mouse.
Oh, let me, yes.
I think I was about 1, and that's Gumby on the right. If there's any, I'm sure little kids might not know who Gumby is, but yeah, my mom had framed those, which was like a very special thing for a kid to see a grown up. The letter C. Yeah, that's been kind of a fun way, but also challenging to draw Reggie's mouth. But yeah, I grew up as a kid. We would go to Disneyland a lot, and it was not the same type of place as it is now. It was very, it wasn't that expensive to go. It wasn't very fancy. So it was definitely a different kind of Disneyland back then. But I remember loving meeting the animals and the characters. And back then, there also weren't hour lines to meet the character. Like, they'd just be walking around and you'd run right up to them.
Yeah.
But I think always having that sense of like wanting to play and imagining characters as being real has kind of stuck with me. And so for Reggie, it's like a character that I kind of know, and he's a part of my life, and he feels really real to me.
Yeah.
And that's something I kind of mentioned too when I talk to kids, is how important it is to play. And when I write stories, it really is just like going back and playing with my stuffed animals again, except instead of like playing with the stuffed animal, I'm just drawing them. So anytime kids are playing with their toys and making up stories, they're really doing the building block work of making stories and books. That's kind of the first part of it.
Yeah, no, I love that too. And honestly, as I was reading this too, in addition to me thinking about the kids, of course, that I've worked with, I also thought of my own stories. And Henry, you know, you mentioned the popsicle story, and that just for me, like, I could relate. There was so much, and I'll share some of the stories in a bit, but also like how is that for you, or what inspired that?
Oh, I love that. You know, that's been the fun thing too since Reggie came out, is because it's this collection of short stories, is hearing from the readers which one they relate to.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, because that's the first time people like the popsicle soup story, but I love hearing that, Henry, because I haven't heard someone say that was their favorite of all of them. But yeah, I actually think Popsicle Soup was the last story that I wrote for the book, and I needed something really small because the book is episodic. So we have some longer stories like the portrait, and then some really short little stories that are like 4 to 6 pages long, kind of like almost like a commercial break in between the longer stories. And so I just needed something kind of quick and silly that showed Reggie problem solving. And I just thought about a small problem. What would happen if he's trying to eat a popsicle and it just melts before he can get it?
Yeah, no, that is. And I was just wondering too, not growing up here, did people always refer to it as grapesicle soup, or was this something that you
Oh, yeah. What did you call? What did you call them? Ice pops or something else?
We had ice pops, but those were for the kids that had the money to buy. We bought
Oh,
ice blocks, so there'll be these like little thin strips of ice or plastic that then people would make either juice or whatever it was, a mixture. Some of them were like a chocolatey cocoa kind of thing, and they
oh,
would pour them into this plastic, which was about about this thin, and then tie the end of it. And so it also depended if it was half, it was cost a little less. And then if
mm,
it was tied all the way at the top or filled all the way to the top, it cost more. And then they'll put it in the freezer and
yeah,
then we'll buy that. So it wasn't the factory made one, but it was
right.
more like people made them from their homes. And then we had this, like when you go out to recess for us, you had the school tax shop again there, you needed some money to buy stuff. Like, but if you had, a little bit, like you didn't need much to buy from the local, mostly it was women that would come and set up these stands, and they would
Mhm.
have fritas, they would have samosas, they would have
Oh,
all
wow.
kinds of things, popsicles or ice blocks as we called them, and
Yeah.
all these things, and you would just get them. You see every kid and would get it, and then it would crash against the wall or something hard, just crash the ice. So then
Uh,
you would kind of, just eating
I
it.
love
Yeah.
that. Oh, I
But
want to hear the story of that. That sounds amazing. Yeah, that
yeah.
reminds me a little bit of like how they have otter pops here, but like you said, those are kind of more factory made. Like
Yeah.
well, they were called otter pops when I was a kid because each plastic strip had a different otter character on it.
Okay, yeah.
As far as like the ice pops on a stick, I call them popsicles, but we didn't
Yeah.
want to say that in the book because we weren't sure if that was a trademark brand.
Right.
Changed to grapesicles, but I found out actually Edward Picot, who I think was on your
Yeah.
show recently, they're called ice lollies in England. So it's interesting hearing like different names for things like where
Yeah.
you live, and same thing for roly polies. Also, I've always called the bugs roly polies, but
Yeah.
depending where you live, they could be called different things like
Diff-
pill bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, wood lice. I've heard in England, like their nickname could be called cheesy bugs. So it's
Yeah, no, that's so true. Because even for us, like here, lollipop, back home we called them Wilsons. Because initially there was the Wilson sweets that made that, and so yeah, and it just went by that, kind of like Kleenex, right? It just became that. So it's like every time you had something that was on a kind of a stick holder thing, and it was a Wilson.
that's so
I want a
interesting.
Wilson, yeah.
Do you find yourself saying that? Like go to the store and buy a
There's many times. The one that gets me here a lot is in Zambia. Generally, when we say I've got to the lab, you're referring to a pharmacy, a chemist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting because sometimes they'll say, "Oh yeah, like the lab," and then some people I'm talking to are like, "What do you mean the lab? Like we're not going to the lab?" Like they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I meant a pharmacy," Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, that one catches me a lot.
My mom grew up in Wisconsin, and when she moved out to California in high school, they would call a water fountain, a drinking fountain, a bubbler. And so she'd be going around asking people where the bubbler is, and they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? Oh, the drinking fountain."
Yes. Oh, just on that note too, Henry, you mentioned the popsicle. I'm sure you didn't think that conversation would go that deep, but thank you for sharing that, Henry. And also just a reminder to everybody that is joining us today that we are joined by Jen de Oliveira, and of course her brand new debut graphic novel, Reggie, Kid Penguin. So please be sure, if you're just joining us, of course, be sure to go back so you can enjoy the first story. And this one, we just read the portrait. And of course, be sure to find Jen on Instagram, as well as Instagram and Twitter. Or what is it now? No longer Twitter, is it? I'll find it and bring it up so everybody can join in. But yes, you can find Jen at Jen Dio Art, and same for Instagram and Twitter. And of course, you can go to the website and it will lead you to the other places. And this one is gmail.com. Thank you so much for being here. Another thing, Jen, that I was thinking about was, you wear many hats, right? Graphic novelist, elementary school teacher, you do the newsletter, and I love the name Sunday Haha.
Mhm.
So how do you balance all these? And if you can also dive a little bit more into Sunday Haha.
Oh yeah. So Sunday Haha is something that I created with my illustrator friend Mika Song. And
Yeah.
if you go to sundayhaha.com, you can sign up for free. And thanks, Henry. And it basically every Sunday, it's like the Sunday funnies that we were used to reading in the newspaper. They come to your email inbox, and it's by all different kidlit creators. So my old Reggie strips were in there, and I actually am working on a batch of new Reggie strips. I haven't had time to work on Reggie comic strips while I was working on the book. And then the second book I just finished up for Reggie. That'll be out next year. So yeah, if you go to sundayhaha.com, you'll see a link to sign up, and then you'll get comics every Sunday in your inbox. And yeah, starting in September, we'll have new ones, and Reggie will be in there. So I'm so excited to share those new ones.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Excited for all that's coming for sure. And I love Mika's song. I love Mika's.
Mika's a wonderful, yeah.
Yeah. And another thing too, I was thinking about was, you Reggie in there says, which one's my favorite? All of them. Now we're going to ask you, what's your favorite?
It's so hard to pick. What I really tried to do is make every story a little bit different. So I like them all for different reasons. I guess that's like the teacher or the grown-up on me, right? Not wanting to pick a favorite.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a favorite, I would probably say it's the Kid Leash story, which is the second to last story.
Yeah.
Book, and that's the one where his cousin is there, and it's just Reggie kind of at his wildest and silliest. His cousin is kind of taking her babysitting responsibilities a little too seriously, and so for Reggie wear a kid leash. He has to wear a harness, and so he gets the idea to act like a dog and run through the neighborhood like a dog. So it just gets pretty silly.
I think we all have that cousin or sibling or somebody that lays down the law. No,
Right.
My sister Sally, I know she won't be upset with me saying this, was definitely that one for me.
She'd be the one taking the kid leash out of her backpack.
Yeah, no, she did her best to keep me in line. So yeah, no, appreciate it. Things I've appreciated now, not so much back then. One of the things that you mentioned in here too, or that Reggie mentions, is this, and I'll just read it out loud because right now what we're going through, and just like I was like, how appropriate is this right now? Or how spot on is it? A word from the bird. Mm-hmm. Is this thing on? Is it me, or is it hot in here? I am melting. Not really, but that reminds me of a short story. This story actually, and that's the intro to Grapesicle Soup. But I was just thinking about that with this. Is it me, or is it hot in here? I am melting. And I feel like we talked about this yesterday, just being hot. And also here, like, what are you doing, or what do you do on a hot day? What's your
goal?
My
goodness. Yeah, I was watching your show yesterday, and I think one of your readers from Indiana was saying it felt like 115.
115, yeah. Goodness.
That's awful. Yeah.
I don't know. It might have been Sarah and Nathan, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just been hot everywhere. I have friends in Texas, and it's been awful there too. Where I live a little bit east of where you're at in Oakland. So we typically do get warm summers. Yeah. So our homes here do have air conditioning. We try not to go overboard using the air conditioning. Yeah, on a hot day, I don't know. If it's a day like I'm having to work on a book, I feel kind of trapped inside. I have to close up the windows to keep it cool, pull the blinds down. But I actually been making iced green tea this summer. So kind of like that sort of helps cool me down to have a glass of that. And yeah,
I'm like following hard here. That sounds delicious.
I know. Yeah, cool drinks, I think. And then yeah, maybe a popsicle every now and then. But don't be like Reggie, don't eat it out in the direct sun.
Right. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, Jen, it's been such a pleasure having you here with us on Story Time.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah,
So
no,
much fun chatting with you, and I loved all of the questions that your viewers had. It was so nice meeting people from all over the country.
yeah, no, I love it. I'm, like this space just gives me so much joy, and thank you for coming in to add to that joy, and just, like, yeah, we have our little ones, we have our older ones in the community, and I just love everybody. I think that's what makes it special. And yeah, thank you. We hope we see you many more times here on Story
I
Time.
would love to come back. Thank you for all that you do. I know you're a busy person coaching and teaching, but thank you for like using your morning time to share stories with us all and spread your joy. And it's just been so wonderful chatting with you.
No, I love this. I love this. Like I have so many plans, so many grand plans, and one day this will be all I wake up to, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll all be tuning in, that's for sure.
But thank you so much. And then too, like you mentioned, I mean, there's the few things that you're working on, and we mentioned the book 2 coming out next year. What else is there for Jen? What else are you, like, would you want people to know about? And then, of course, people can sign up for the newsletter as well, you mentioned, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you sign up for Sunday Haha, you'll be the first to see the new Reggie comic strips that come out. And then I just finished the Reggie book 2. So if you go to my website, reggiecomic.com, or if you follow me on Instagram, you'll kind of know what the name of that book is and what the cover looks like. Maybe around October, I'll get to share that. And I also have some fun how to draw videos and actually some trivia videos. So that would be a good one for Henry. Henry, keep your eye on Reggie because I know he is a Reggie pro. So hopefully by next month, I'll have some fun videos and some printable pages too. So I have some homeschool families. Hopefully you'll enjoy like printing those pages, and there's comics, drawing, writing, all kinds of things to share.
Yeah, no, I look forward to so many too, as all the Halloweens that'll be coming up. I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing quite a few Reggies around.
Oh my goodness. I hope if that happens, people send me pictures. I would love to see that.
Right. Oh, love it. Thank you so much for being here one more time. And to everybody that was joining in, and of course, everybody that will be joining us later on for the recordings. This has been our chat, our visit with Jen de Oliveira, and we were celebrating this amazing book. Please get it. Find it at your local library. Hopefully your local library has it in store now. I know Jen's doesn't yet. Hopefully, come on, get to speed. Yeah. But Reggie Kid Penguin is out. Jen de Oliveira. Lots of fun, lots of laughter, and just find it, enjoy it, and of course, send pictures to Jen. You can follow Jen on Instagram, and you can also find her on Twitter. So be sure to check out that, and also at reggiecomic.com. Sign up for what needs to be signed up so you can be up to date with everything Jen de Oliveira. And of course, Kid Penguin Reggie. Thank you so much for joining in. Jen, I'll catch you on the other side.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining in today, and always a pleasure to be here with you. Another amazing book, another awesome guest giving us our time here on Story Time. Please, thank you so much to everybody too for sharing your questions, for sharing your enthusiasm for Jen here, and of course the story. Appreciate you. And of course, we're back on Story Time tomorrow. And remember, tomorrow we're back on this new schedule. Right now we're at 6 a.m. This was special. We had Jen, we had to be here at 7 so we could get as many of you as possible. We're back here tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific time. So hopefully for those further east, it's not affecting you too much. But I know for my folks out here in California, it will be pretty rough. But we'll be here at 6 a.m. and this is because there've been a few changes in my schedule. So 6 a.m. of course, the recording will rerun at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Join me tomorrow as we bring this brand new book from Chronicle Books and Derek Wilder, and this one is called I Made These Ants Some Underpants. Come and join me for this one tomorrow. It is illustrated by Kate Fight Steele. And of course, always a big pleasure to Chronicle Books for sharing so many amazing books with us here on Storytime. Was there a question that I didn't get to with Jen today? If you have one of those, please do send them my way and I will make sure to get them to Jen. And of course, follow Jen on Instagram and Twitter and you could ask the questions yourself. Thank you so much for being here. Reggie was the book we're looking at today, Kid Penguin. And of course, we read the first story, The Portrait. Could you relate? Thank you so much. Or is there another favorite in here like Henry? Maybe it is the Grapesicle Soup. Thank you so much for joining in today. Absolutely appreciate you. Hugs to each and every one of you. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day. If it is hot out where you are, please remember to take all the necessary precautions. Take care of yourself. Hydrate. Remember to carry that hat or umbrella or whatever else that you need to protect yourself. Thank you so much for joining in on Storytime. And we're back with many more stories again tomorrow and hopefully the week after that and many more weeks to come. Thank you for being here. Much love from me. Bye-bye.
Story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? I just can't wait to be hearing story time. Story time with Mr. Limata. He will be starting soon. Oh, story time with Mr. Limata, where all your dreams come true. Oh, he brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing. Brings to life your favorite stories with a great big smile. You won't leave lonely, won't you start all the reading? We just can't wait to be hearing